You're listening to TV Archaeology. This is Season 1, Episode 1. Today and all season long, we're going to be talking about Season 1 of Twin Peaks. And today we're going to be talking about Episode 1, otherwise known as The Pilot. My name is Jason Mitchell. I'm here with my co-host, Adam Lejeune. Say hi, Adam.
Hi.
I am a former Bookhouse boy. I don't think Adam was ever a Bookhouse boy. They kicked me out because I didn't bring a book back.
I don't even know what Bookhouse boy is.
See, and that's what's great. See, the gist of this show for people who are just tuning in for the first time, which is probably everyone since this is the first episode. What we're going to do is every season of TV Archaeology, we're going to take one season of a TV show, and every episode of our show is going to correspond to an episode of that show. So, for instance, if there's a season of a show with 25 episodes, then the season of our show will have 25 episodes. And we're going to play it by ear. This is sort of a work in progress, but we like to talk about TV. And in this case, we're talking about a show that is one of my all-time favorites, Twin Peaks. Adam has not watched Twin Peaks, so we are going to get the perspective of somebody who's seen every episode a few times. I read the book. I listened to the Agent Cooper tapes, which is very good. You can get it on Audible, who is a sponsor of this show, or will be once they approve our application.
Do they ever not approve applications?
I don't think so. I mean, I think if your podcast was, the How to Torture Puppy Dogs podcast, Audible would probably, they would frown on that.
You should just acronym it at that point. HTTP podcast.
HTTP.
Obviously they'll think it's about, being a butcher or something like that, or
How to Tame Puppies.
No, so
anyway.
I feel like, I talked about this with you before, but I wanted to not talk too much about it off mic. But I have seen the Twin Peaks, I guess, prequel movie, Fire Walk with Me. I don't know if
Fire Walk with Me.
I don't know if it was on TV or if it was a movie in the theater. I remember watching it. I think maybe actually I started watching it at your apartment and then went back to my apartment and finished watching it. And not knowing anything about the characters or the situation, I just enjoyed it as sort of a visual, trip, kind of. The music, I really liked. The visualness of it. I had no idea what was going on, of course, and I don't think that much of it has been retained by me. I do know of Twin Peaks as a cultural phenomenon and as a TV touchstone for a lot of people, but I really don't know much about it.
Well, I did not watch Twin Peaks when it was originally on the air, which is true, I think, for most Twin Peaks fans, and one of the reasons why it got canceled. Mm-hmm. I sort of came to Twin Peaks later in life, watched it all on Netflix. Netflix was the first time I ever watched it straight through. And it's interesting because, and we can go ahead and get into this episode. And just so everybody knows, obviously, if we're talking about a show episode by episode, it's going to be spoiler rich. There are going to be things that we tell you about in the episode because it is a fairly in-depth discussion. So if you don't want spoilers, go watch the episode now, episode 1, the pilot, and be aware that while I'm going to try not to spoil too much from down the road, primarily because I don't want to ruin it for
I don't
Adam.
want it spoiled for myself.
Right. There may be, here or there might be some spoilers. So, but anyway, let's jump straight into episode 1 of season 1 of Twin Peaks.
So right off, I just want to say the first thing that really struck me, and I don't know how much of a theme this is going to be, but I kind of gather that from what I did see of Fire Walk with Me and then what I saw in the pilot when I watched it the other day, long, lingering shots on items or locations really, really jumped out. And I think that's something that is maybe pretty common in TV today. I don't really know much about current TV shows or what's going on, but I definitely know that back when I was watching, Perfect Strangers or, even ER back in the same kind of time period, that they did not traditionally feature 15-second shots of a phone cord, for example, on a TV show in the early 90s, I guess. Is that whenever Twin Peaks came out?
Yeah. It's a very David Lynch thing. I mean, you have to remember that the show was ahead of its time. Even if you're not a fan of the show, even if you never could get into it or you've never watched it, you have to realize that when Twin Peaks came out in the early 90s, there was still this thing called the movie business, and people would go to movie theaters and they would pay modest sums and they would watch a movie.
Who is the audience of this podcast that they don't remember what movies were whenever?
Well, no, it's been so long.
Yeah, no, TV has totally taken the place of intelligent movies, I think.
Right, absolutely. I mean,
not to say that there aren't good intelligent movies that are coming out, but one, how in the hell would someone in Nowheresville be able to see that movie aside from hearing about it and then, finding it on a Netflix or what's that?
You didn't say a state. I like how you didn't say a state there because you didn't want to. You were about to. I could hear a state about to come out.
No. And then 3, how would that person have someone else to talk to about it except for in the context of the internet like this, right?
Yeah.
So going to the movies with a buddy or visiting, it's just, I don't think it's something that I have the opportunity to do very often. And I think that it's definitely become a couch phenomenon.
Well, I think, and we're getting a little off track. Well, but not really, because
there's no track.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why it's good for everybody to get into this show now is because, look, you can watch a well-written, well-acted show. Well, mostly.
Yeah, I was going to say something.
Well, see,
interestingly acted. Definitely,
yeah,
I think there's definitely a direction that was given to the actors. So it was definitely acted. It's not very naturalistic, I find. Some people are.
No. Well, look, and here, my personal reaction to Twin Peaks, and this is sort of the story of how I got into Twin Peaks, was I knew people who had watched it. I knew people who loved the show, and I had never seen an episode of it. So there was a weekend a few years ago when I think my wife was sick or my kid somebody was sick. So I was sort of at home just doing, tending to a sick person duty. And I said, well, you know what? It's on Netflix. I see this thing all the time on Netflix. I'm going to go ahead and just watch it and finally see what everybody's talking about. So I start watching it. Probably about halfway in, my wife walked in the room and she said, what are you watching? I said, Twin Peaks. She said, oh, how is it? I said, this is the most overwrought, self-indulgent piece of crap I've ever seen in my life.
Halfway through the pilot episode or halfway through
halfway through the pilot episode.
Okay, yeah.
She came back in about half an hour later and she said, you're still watching it? And I said, yeah. And she goes, why? And I said, because it's the best show I've ever seen.
I can't look away. So
it hits you so hard. Well, let's go to the beginning of the show. Mm-hmm. Okay. The show. And, by the way, just to give credit where credit's due, I'm pulling some of this, not the material, but I'm using as a reference the twinpeaks.wikia.com website, because they've got good synopses where I can keep eyeballing the synopsis and sort of keep everything on track. I've actually also got the episode playing on my iPad with the volume down. So I'm looking. I just started it, and I'm looking at a lovely shot of a sawmill with smoke rising and Who would have thought that this would be one of my favorite shows ever?
I noticed right away the real strong setting of the place, right? It's a misty, smoky mountain town, sawmill. I saw, in fact, one of the first things I wrote down, sharpening of the saw blade was a really strong, was it the first scene, or was that like maybe the second shot or the second scene was the sharpening?
In the intro?
In the intro. See,
it's not the first shot in the intro is the bird.
Okay. See, I don't know what what the traditional every episode intro even looks like. But I right away noticed the sharpening of the blade. It's very early up there. I wrote it down in my notes. It's kind of menacing and ominous for what it is.
It is.
And I really like watching those YouTube, clips where it's like, Sven and Hjalbard are making logs in Norway. So, it jumped right out at me. I liked the whole setup.
Well, I think what it does is it establishes very, very quickly in the opening credits, it establishes a world that is just outside of your world. It's not an alien planet. It's not another country. It's not anything like that. It's people who have jobs and they go to school and they do other things, but it's not the average person's world. And to second what you said about the atmosphere, the sort of moody, brooding atmosphere, I would take that one step further. My favorite, I don't really know if it's a plot device, more of a thematic device. And, I'm a huge Babylon 5 fan. Mm-hmm. One thing that I love, a show can capture my interest almost immediately with there's something weird going on out there mood. The idea that, okay, well, we're doing, the characters are doing their thing, they're living their lives, but some people or everyone in the story is aware that just over the hill or a little bit further away in space or over in the next town over, there's something going on, and it's weird, and it's probably sinister, and we should probably take a look and figure out what's going on. And
now, what gave you that? What was the first thing that gave you that impression?
With Twin Peaks, in the pilot, it's really just a mood thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't specifically, and that's the thing about Twin Peaks. It is, on the surface, it is a murder mystery. Mm-hmm. It's really impossible to describe how much more than a murder mystery it really is. Mm-hmm. It's a very big story with a lot of bits and pieces and a lot of ancillary stories. Mm-hmm. And
I'm vaguely aware of a supernatural element, and I'm vaguely aware of a small man who talks backwards.
Well, everyone's seen,
those are the cultural parts that everyone sort of knows about. But to go back on what you said a little bit earlier, where there's something sinister just over the hill and that we need to investigate it, I feel like the characters that I've met so far, if they get the feeling that there's something sinister over the next hill, they're pretty much saying we should not look at it. If we just ignore it, then it won't become an issue and we won't have to deal with it. That's kind of the mood that I get, especially the owner of the mill, who just seems distraught even before the
Josie Packard. Yeah, Josie.
Yes. Even before the body is found in the very, very beginning by the gigantic log, she seems distraught, and I guess you find out later that it's maybe because of the circumstance of the ownership of the mill, and I understand that. But the look on her face it's a lingering shot of her face for multiple seconds, which is almost agonizing these days, right?
Well, let's do this then. I mean, because we're talking about the episode specifically. Mm-hmm. We begin the show. We go straight to what is going to be the fulcrum of the show. which is the discovery by Pete Martell, who, by the way, Pete Martell, he was played by Jack Nance, who I think passed away not too long ago. I'm sure someone will correct me on that, which would be cool because it means someone's listening.
But if we get a correction.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Please correct us.
I know at least one person who plans on listening.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, Jack Nance was Eraserhead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Eraserhead.
He had a really awkward delivery of almost every line that he did.
Well, he's very avuncular. You know, he's very much the nice guy. You wish that Pete lived next door to you. Pete would always loan you his lawnmower, and he'd expect it back, but he wouldn't be a jerk about it. Of course, his wife is a complete witch.
So that's what I was about to ask. So the woman,
Catherine Martell.
Catherine Martell is the sister of the previous owner of the mill who married the other lady
who married Josie
Packer.
Yeah,
and so she is not happy that her mill that I guess was in their family for a while is now owned by somebody new, somebody different.
Well, I mean, without getting into what actually is going on, what do we see in the episode is she's not happy.
Right.
And she clearly does not like Josie. But anyway, so the episode opens. We have what is going to be the fulcrum of the entire show, which is the discovery of a dead body. And as we learn very, very soon, it's the body of Laura Palmer, which is one of the names that is just synonymous now in my head with good TV. You know, Laura Palmer is such an interesting character because you don't actually get to know her in person until the series was canceled. Because you don't get to see Laura alive very much.
Yeah, I think the only thing in the pilot, at least, was video that was taken of her.
Yeah, you get to see. Yeah, you get to see the video with. Oh Lord, I can't remember the name of the person who plays Laura Palmer.
Oh, that's okay.
Zabriskie, something Zabriskie. Someone will.
You don't have it up on Wiki right now.
No, I do not. Grace Zabriskie. That's it. It's Grace Zabriskie.
Has she been in other things?
Yeah, she was in the episode of Psych that spoofed Twin Peaks. Oh. And it was fantastic. Dana Ashbrook, who plays Bobby, he was in it.
Oh God, I hate Bobby.
Well, see, Bobby's
just as far as structure, I don't think we need to necessarily run down the whole entire episode because people are either going to have already seen it and are listening to the podcast.
That's fine.
But I mean, we can just to kind of keep it moving forward. We can say in the next scene, or But I like the more organic way of going backwards and forwards.
Well, that's fine. And how about this? Why don't we discuss at first everything up until Agent Cooper shows up?
Okay, sure.
Because you get to meet a lot of the characters in Twin Peaks. You get to know a lot of their unique personalities. You get to meet, one of my favorite characters, which is Sheriff Harry Truman.
Yes,
who is probably like the best straight man.
Yeah, really stood out to me as a maybe supposed to be the regular viewer's window into this community, which I guess almost I don't know how many of the main recurring cast are introduced in the pilot, but the whole first half of this before Agent Cooper gets there is basically just setting up who I would imagine is a main cast sort of background. You get a real quick tableau of who they are, what they've been going through, kind of where they think their lives are headed almost.
Yeah.
And then you get the sheriff's perspective of that as well.
I would say that in the first probably 15, 20 minutes of the episode, every major character with the exception of Agent Cooper gets a little bit of screen time. I don't think that. Yeah, Norma, she gets some screen time. Nadine, I think, is the only person you have to wait until after Cooper shows up before you get to meet her. And
who was Nadine? Which one was Nadine?
Nadine is Big Ed Hurley's wife.
Oh, okay.
Played by
and closing the blinds.
Wendy Roby. Wendy Roby is someone who was given a part that I think a lot of actors would choke on, and by God, she played it to the hilt.
I mean, as far as I know, she is just a completely psycho, crazy person. That's all I know from the first episode.
Yeah, and
Big
there's
Ed
a lot.
I like, by the way. Big Ed, I really like his character.
Oh yeah,
I hope
Big
he
Ed's
doesn't
great.
turn out to be something different. I recognize the actor who played Big Ed, and I think, in fact, after I watched the episode Thursday night, today's Sunday, so I watched it 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I think I saw him in something else, but I don't remember what it was, just in passing. And he was not as tall as he was in Twin Peaks. So did they make him walk on stilts the whole time? Is everyone else just small? Or
that's interesting. I mean,
was I just mistaken?
Well, maybe they could have shot it that way, or he could have had lifts in his shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, he is known as Big Ed, so it is part of his character. So if you find an actor as good as Everett McGill, if he's not quite tall enough, you adjust.
Yeah, make everybody stand in a trench.
Yeah. And and a lot of the character background on all of these characters never ever comes out in the series, and it never comes out in the movie. I would the character background, of what's the story of Big Ed and Nadine?
Oh, yeah.
What's the story of Big Ed and Norma? You get bits and pieces of it. You certainly get an impression. And David Lynch manages, with Norma, for instance, and Big Ed, you get the entire story in about 30 seconds just by the way the two of them act around each other. Immediately what happened. It all
and
makes...
Big Ed's comment to Donna about Donna's boyfriend,
right?
That's what I like. That's what I liked about it. All the quick introductions and all the really quick sort of tableau of each person's life. I can see that maybe a viewer in the day would think, what in the world is going on here? Who is the main character that I'm supposed to be rooting for? Who is the person who is the bad guy? Clearly, they want me to think this person's the bad guy or whatever. But I like that everything we know about them so far is just a glimpse.
Yeah.
It's just a hint. I really like that.
I think that, David Lynch and Mark Frost probably were of the attitude that, okay, if we're going to do this and the audience needs to be ready to stick with it for the long haul. Mm-hmm. If this was a 2.5 hour or 2 hour long movie, well, we got to reveal a lot of stuff really quickly. Mm-hmm. And, that's one of the criticisms of the show. I remember ages ago on one of the message boards.
A Twin Peaks specific message board?
No, it was... it was... I can't remember what it was. It was a Babylon 5 message board. And I saw that there was because J. Michael Straczynski, the guy behind Babylon 5, he used to in the early days of the internet, he would interact with the fans and the community online, and he compared Babylon 5 to Twin Peaks, and he said something along the lines of, and I think this is a fair criticism, you have to know how to reveal to the audience. You've got to do the exposition. The problem with Twin Peaks, as he said it, was that Twin Peaks didn't reveal enough. It never gave you. In fact, one of the things that really changed the whole direction of the show was, I don't know if it was ABC or if it probably was ABC. They forced Lynch and Frost to reveal the murderer of Laura Palmer so when you get to that point in the show, when that mystery is finally solved, you have to remember Lynch and Frost did not intend to reveal that at that time. That was
yeah. Sorry.
Well, that was supposed to be an ongoing mystery. So it is
for the whole. Was it during the first season when they did that? Let's not get into what episode. I want to.
Let's not get into that. But one of the things that strikes me a lot about this episode, I mean, just hits you over the head with a hammer, is the way that the Horns act. I'm sorry, not the Horns. The Palmers. Leland Palmer, who Leland is he's great. He's
not a lot of him in this episode. Just he has a very scenery chewing breakdown whenever he finds out that Laura died.
Yeah, that is Ray Wise just stepping on the gas.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, in a different context, it would almost be funny.
Well, it's very melodramatic, and one of the things that you'll notice is that they keep showing you. They keep showing you clips from a soap opera. And by the way, earlier I said that Grace Zabriskie played Laura Palmer. That's not right. Grace Zabriskie played Sarah Palmer, the incredibly overacting mother of Laura Palmer, Leland Palmer's wife. So
yes,
for everybody who and actually, I kind of hope people did leap to their keyboards to correct me because it makes someone listen.
Gonna get called out.
I know I'm gonna get called out on that. You know,
you're a fake fan. You didn't even watch it in the '90s.
I know. I'm coming to all this stuff. Late. Anyway, Grace Zabriskie.
No, she was so over the top and ridiculous. I admit I did laugh during the very last scene. So are we? You
had to. See. I mean, honestly, you.
I mean, it was just so.
Yeah, how the hell do you not laugh at that?
I loved it. So I noticed a couple things, and again, I'm a little bit cheating because I did watch Fire Walk with Me, but I just wanted to say that I noticed a lot of things, a lot of items were red, and basically everywhere.
Yeah.
So I made a quick list of things. That's most of what my notes are, is just noticing all the red things.
Yeah.
So the
Cheryl Lee, by the way, that I knew that the whole time. I didn't have to look at IMDb.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
The kitchen, I guess Bobby's parents' kitchen is completely red. Red cabinets, the red doors in the cabinets, red cabinets. The school color is apparently red, right? The same sort of blood red.
I don't. I'm actually going to scroll through, see if I can see that, because I don't. Yeah, you're right. The school color.
Yeah, because all their varsity jackets and there's red stripes going all through the school.
Yeah,
like red lines.
Reminded me of a heartbeat that was going away. Mm-hmm. You know, well, that's.
I wonder if that was found or if that was done, if that was art directed.
I don't know. I mean, from what I know, the first episode was primarily filmed on location, and then from there on, they had sets that they used, and then they would use. They would do pickup shots in Washington or Oregon, whatever. I don't remember which town played Twin Peaks. But see, I think a part of that, that's the cinematography, the language of cinematography. Mm-hmm. Every shot is done from the perspective or with the purpose of communicating something. If we're going to film something, what do we do with the shot to make it useful? Mm-hmm. Why it's not just the performance and the dialogue that are being delivered. The shot's got to have something to it itself that communicates, and there's tons of that. There's tons of that. That is
so clearly in every big TV drama today's tool bag. I watched the first episode of Better Call Saul the other day just because I'd always heard that it was good.
Show. It's a good show. I like it.
Didn't really like Breaking Bad, which is probably
I'm not a huge Breaking Bad fan.
Yeah, so I mean our bona fides are probably thrown out the window by a lot of people just from saying that.
No, I don't give a shit about that.
The first episode of Better Call Saul was phenomenal.
MST3K is a better show than Breaking Bad. There, I'm on record.
Better Call Saul had a lot of those same things that, retroactively thinking back on it, I noticed in the Twin Peaks pilot. The long lingering shots on something, letting the lighting of the room sort of paint a picture of what the room is. I'm specifically talking about whenever Saul sneaks behind and grabs his old tape of his old lawyer promo and whatnot. The parallels, that visual language that Twin Peaks feels like to me maybe pioneered on a TV show, taken from the film world.
Yeah, I think
very, very, very common these days.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that at the time, TV was TV, movies were movies. TV movies were TV movies, cinema movies were cinema movies. There was a very, very stark line. They were
Can you find what other TV shows premiered in the year that year that Twin Peaks premiered?
Yeah,
and while you're doing that, I'm gonna go through the rest of the list of red things that I saw.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna clack away at my mechanical keyboard.
Audrey's shoes that she puts on inside the hallway at the high school are that same red. Obviously, lots of kids wearing red in the classrooms whenever they announced that Laura was murdered. Laura's book, not her diary, but another book that was there was red, like almost the whole thing. Or maybe, no, it was a box of something. That's right. Laura's desk chair in her room, in the classroom is red. Big Ed's, the building itself, is red. What else?
By the way, 1990 was a really good year for TV.
There's a red building that they show at the end. When I thought they were showing the Roadhouse, they actually showed some other building that was like a red building. Inside the Roadhouse are red seats. So that's all the red stuff that I noticed. So what other shows premiered in what year was it?
1990.
Okay.
Twin Peaks premiered April 8th, 1990. And that year, well, actually that month, Wings on NBC, one of my favorite shows. And
nothing like Twin Peaks.
Nothing like Twin Peaks. There were a lot of comedies. The 90s were great for comedies. This was the era when Seinfeld ruled.
Seinfeld debuted in 89 or 88?
Yeah, I think 89 was, yeah. I think so.
Same difference, but yeah.
So Twin Peaks, in living color, premiered Wings.
Yeah.
One of the most influential shows in television history, Tailspin.
Right.
I mean, that's like the whole reason that, legions of filmmakers became filmmakers. Was Tailspin. Dream On, one of the most quickly forgotten shows ever.
Show.
But my God, was it funny.
Was that Showtime or HBO?
That was HBO. That was the show that made me, even as a kid, want to get HBO. Because it was...
Right.
It was...
Pretty smart. It was smart show.
It was very smart. It was very... Did you know there was a Ferris Bueller show that premiered?
I did see that. I watched it whenever I was a kid, and then when I finally saw the Ferris Bueller movie, I was like, who the hell are these people except for Cameron? Because I think he was in both, right? The actor who played Cameron, I don't know his name.
Probably. Oh, Law and Order premiered that year.
Oh, Law and Order. Wow.
There was a Bill and Ted show? That had to have been a cartoon. Okay.
Yeah, it was a cartoon.
Okay.
I remember that.
Going through the list, though, I'm looking at dramas that premiered, and not a lot. Not a lot that was... I mean, I'm not seeing a lot of dramas that really... Yeah, nothing really stands out.
I wonder what maybe what shows were on TV that made the people who financed it think that they could get away with it.
I think the idea was David Lynch. Mm-hmm. I think it was, look, how can this, how could this not be at least good for a season? It's David Lynch. If we can get him to write and direct a show, and of course, there are. If you read on the internet, there's a lot of people who talk about how in the second season, Lynch and Frost really got pretty hands off. And the second season, I mean, I don't want to say there's a dip in quality, but there are.
Well, the principal creators are hands off at that point, and I guess that, obviously I haven't seen it yet, but I can only imagine that it was an attempt to save the investment that had been made in creating the show in the first place.
Yeah, I would say so.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah, now of course the Showtime resurrection of Twin Peaks, that's all David Lynch and Mark Frost, and I really think, especially, and going back to what I was saying before about a lot of the character information is not ever revealed in the show. A lot of what I know about the characters is from the book that Mark Frost wrote called The Secret History of Twin Peaks, which you should not read unless you've watched the series. But after you've watched the series, and even if you don't like Twin Peaks, if you just have an interest in weird stuff, and by weird I mean, pick your poison. I mean, anything from Bigfoot to aliens, ghosts, that kind of stuff. It's a damn good book, and it's one of the most uniquely written, one of the most interesting books I've ever read. But it also gives you a lot of backstory. It tells you a lot about the characters that you're not going to pick up watching the show. And speaking of characters, we've got to get now to the most important moment in the first episode of Twin Peaks, which is
maybe in the entire series.
Well,
otherwise you wouldn't have much of a show.
Yeah, because the show wouldn't exist. Yeah,
it'd be Northern Exposure in Washington or whatever.
Yeah. Wow. What about I wonder if there's a fan theory that Northern Exposure and Twin Peaks take place in the same universe.
I
think that would
can
be the
imagine
most,
that they do.
Yeah,
I seem to remember some supernatural things happening in Northern Exposure too.
Yeah, I think so.
So I wrote that down. When was Northern Exposure time period wise versus Twin Peaks? Northern Exposure had to be after Twin Peaks.
No, Northern Exposure debuted like 2 months after Twin Peaks.
Oh man, I bet they were pissed.
Yeah, it was a real Star Trek: The Next Generation, Babylon 5 thing going on.
Right. God, talk about taking shows. The same. Yes, very different shows. But imagine being in the production meeting after, maybe. They're all on TV, so maybe they kind of know each other. It's like, what are you working on? No, we're working on a quirky comedy set in a misty Alaskan town with a very strange cast of characters, and they just get up to all kinds of weird things. What are you working on? Oh, we're working on a darkly beautiful TV show set in a misty community in the mountains with quirky characters, and they get up to some hijinks, but it's all very mysterious.
Right now I'm gonna have to go watch all of Northern Exposure to determine if they take place in the same universe.
Secret History of Northern Exposure book.
Yeah. Which I think if we come up with that will be the most uninteresting same universe theory in all of, because you could conclusively prove it and the result would be, so what?
Okay, here's my first crack at it. The astronaut character in Northern Exposure who always reminded me of your dad.
Oh my God.
Blasts off in the Northern Exposure universe. No, from the Twin Peaks universe. And he's actually a Twin Peaks character who's trapped in Northern Exposure.
Oh my God.
And then Dr. Elliot from ER got a debilitating pollution-caused fake disease in Twin Peaks and had to move to Northern Exposure in order to manage it.
Was that the name of the town?
The town?
I don't think it was called Northern Exposure.
No, it was called something very like artsy. Like it was named after the theater.
Copyright.
Like it was like Marjorie something. It was like there was a lot of pseudo, maybe not pseudo, but there was a lot of like theater.
Yeah. See,
the treading the bullets type stuff in Northern Exposure that got really irritating.
See, I think that it's probably a lot more likely that Twin Peaks takes place in the same universe as the Gilmore Girls. Because
I don't have a frame of reference for Gilmore Girls. I'm sorry.
It's the only thing that would explain the performances.
Oh, the melodrama.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, I'm calling it right now. The next season of this podcast is Northern Exposure. Maybe not every episode because there's like a billion of them.
I was about to say, that show was on the air for a while, and I actually don't know.
We can do one season of Northern Exposure. I'm down for that. That would be great.
Yeah, we could do a one-off, maybe one episode where we just take the whole first season, or just all of Northern Exposure in an episode.
No, I want. Let's do every season of Northern Exposure. This is the next 120 episodes of this podcast starting now.
No, I wanted to do every episode of News Radio.
We could do that one too. That's the net. We're going to do in this podcast for we have content. You know.
Yeah,
we're cranking out content. That's good.
So Agent Cooper.
Yes.
Now Agent Cooper is not only the best character in the whole show.
He's great.
He's just fantastic.
Does he maintain the level of excitement to be there that he has in the first episode?
He stays Agent Cooper the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. He's consistently, reliably Agent Cooper.
No, I'm not talking about the excitement at like, what kind of trees are these? Or what bird would you call that? Like, not that level of excitement. I'm just talking about he is absolutely the most experienced person in whatever room he walks into. And I think he is the one who says something is going on here. Let's go find it. And everyone else is saying something weird is going on here. Let's turn away from it.
Yeah, well...
Do you agree?
Yeah, Cooper is very interesting to me because in any other TV series, one of the differences between Twin Peaks and anything else would be that you would have this town full of very odd people, and an outsider would show up, and the outsider would be completely normal. Mm-hmm. I mean... Eureka Warehouse 13. Wait, Warehouse 13? Is that the name of it?
So that is kind of an inversion then, because the Sheriff Harry S. Truman is the normal one, really.
Yeah, he's the most normal. And the fish out of water is in
He's the one that rolls his eyes at people's weird quirks.
Yeah. Yeah, the fish out of water in this series, he is a fish out of water, but he's a fish who is just as weird as everyone else, but just in a different way. Mm-hmm. And it's nice because since the town is so chock full of odd people.
Chock full of nuts.
Yeah, well, they accept him. You know? They like him. Cooper fits in perfectly well. It's like he should have been born in Twin Peaks.
Ah, I see.
You know? Except that he is weird in different ways. And he's normal enough to find what they do strange, but then he can also do plenty of things that they find strange.
So I have a question. How, and be as vague as you can on this, how often is Agent Cooper wrong?
Oh, is he ever?
That's okay. That's kind of what like when he says,
I'm not going to go on record and say he's never wrong.
Right. Sure. But the tendency is for when I'm specifically saying, so basically, I would imagine most people have watched the episode. When Bobby is kind of played up to be the one that killed Laura, Agent Cooper gets Bobby in the interrogation room and he's showing them the video and is like, well, who shot that video? And then Bobby is really kind of, he knows that he knows that it was it Jack or Jacob or something? The biker guy?
Oh, James.
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 He knows that it was James that shot the video, so clearly he knows something's going on.
Yeah.
But at that point, Cooper was like, okay, yeah, no, he didn't do it. Right?
Yeah. He was very, very, he knew very early on that James was innocent. Or
I'm talking about Bobby.
You mean when he was talking to Bobby, he already knew that James was the one who shot the video?
No, he didn't know that James shot the video. He knew that it was a biker, or he noticed after the fact, or he maybe during. I don't know, because that cool scene where he saw the reflection of the motorcycle in Laura's eye.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that I think he was convinced that Bobby didn't do it after showing Bobby the video and watching his reaction to that. He didn't think that James did it after seeing Donna with James at the end on his motorcycle and seeing that dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Bobby and Bobby's lughead friend, Mini Brock Lesnar, started barking at James in the jail. Oh man, that was funny.
What can you say about that scene? I mean,
it's just like I almost feel like the direction to Bobby was be as complete of an insane asshole as you possibly could be.
Yeah.
Like standing on his own car and tossing the beer cans over the roof into the doctor guy's, Donna's dad's yard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Well, Bobby is an interesting character, and it comes up. It comes up a lot that you want to absolutely just despise the kid. You hate him just because of the way he acts, and he acts like a complete ass.
He acts like a entitled, narcissistic star.
Yeah, but the way he is with Shelley, for instance, he does have another side to him. He does have, he's a complete character. He's not just a cartoon character, jerky bad guy.
Right. Okay, that makes sense then. The way you explain it that way, that Laura, which obviously we don't know anything about her except that she was the homecoming queen at some point.
What the impression you get, and it's confirmed time and time again, was that Laura Palmer was the hub, and the whole town didn't revolve around her, but everyone
had a story.
Yeah, everyone who knew Laura Palmer was deeply influenced by Laura Palmer. Everyone, and
as far as we know from now, it all positive.
Yeah, I mean, she's well, you do know. I mean, at the end of episode 1.
Yeah, we know that not everything was as it seemed, but the impression throughout the episode is that everyone that we've met anyway, has a positive story or relationship. Even Bobby, who is cheating on her, gets legitimately upset whenever it's suggested that he didn't love Laura anymore. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's the conversation at the end of the episode between Donna and James, where Donna and James realize that they have feelings for each other. But James,
which I really wonder, that seemed to me pretty quick that maybe each other's caring for Laura so much that wouldn't necessarily happen. And then maybe it seemed to me more that it was a look at the situation you were in now. Not that they necessarily had feelings for each other, but that they were just thrust into this situation with each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you were going to say about the conversation between them at the end.
Well, that conversation is enough to let you know that Laura had a dark side, and that when you got to know the dark side of Laura Palmer, it really bothered you. It was not something you were happy about, and that's going to come back. And I suppose what we should do is, I think we can hit the rest of the things that happened in the show by saying what's not what is being set up, but what is there that is going to set something up.
I don't necessarily want to know. I mean, I have some suspicions about things.
Well, no, I mean, let's take it from the standpoint of, that Agent Cooper is in town. Mm-hmm. He
thinks that it may be a serial killer of some kind.
A specific serial killer who specifically killed someone who left a letter under a fingernail of a victim. Okay, so that, and I know,
and that was Laura that he found it on, right? But not the other girl who escaped from, I guess, where we are assuming that Laura was killed.
Ronette Pulaski. Ronette, the scrap of paper was under Laura's fingernail.
Okay.
That, you see, and there's so many things in the show that, that's something to pay attention to, obviously. Mm-hmm. What I found when I rewatched the first episode again, and I don't think I noticed it the first time, and going back and having seen the whole series, the end of the show, what you sort of, your attention is drawn to someone picking up that necklace.
Right.
But immediately before that, Sarah Palmer, she's hysterical again, and she's been hysterical the whole show, so that's nothing new. But if you will notice, and I'm just calling your attention to the scene, she looks at the camera and she screams.
Right. I took it to be that she was having the vision of someone taking the necklace.
That's a fair interpretation, and I think what I would say is, as you watch the show, when you figure out what exactly was going on there, mm-hmm. and it's probably never going to dawn on it, because it never dawned on me. I never went back and said, "Oh yeah," but looking at it again, there's really only one possible conclusion, and so that's going to be important. So the necklace scene that gets your attention. It's a very, very subtle thing, and only somebody who performed like Grace Zabriskie performed in that episode could make screaming at the top of her lungs the subtle part.
Yeah.
But she had been so over the top and so hysterical the entire episode that
so maybe it's a different kind of scream.
Yeah, it was a nuanced scream.
Well, speaking of the locket thing, they said the person. So Donna was saying that the cops, the authority characters all feel that the person who has the other half of that locket is the person that killed Laura. And then it was James that had it, but he had it because he loved Laura. And I don't know to what level that was reciprocated or not, but I guess we'll find out.
Well, like everything else with Laura Palmer, it's more complicated than it seems.
Sure, right, exactly.
And that's really the thing. I mean, if you find out that Laura Palmer's favorite food was lasagna, then you can bet that there's a very, very complex, intricate reason why, and it's a specific kind of lasagna, and it actually isn't her favorite. It actually makes her very sad to eat it, but she feels compelled to. I mean, everything in the show has depth to it,
which I like. But what I was saying, I noticed that
Julie Cruz has just popped up on my iPad. The scene where they're in the roadhouse, and Julie Cruz, who sang the songs.
Okay.
Yeah. She.
Which, by the way, very not the type of music that I would expect for an act at a roadhouse.
No.
And everyone is sitting and watching it completely enraptured.
Yeah. Well, again,
totally fits the tone of the show.
Yeah, and that's the whole part of Twin Peaks. It's everyone does normal things. They just don't do it normally.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah, they go to the roadhouse and they drink beers, but they're not going to do it the way everyone else does. They're going to listen to Julie Cruz sing a very slow, low key, early '90s.
No, I thought that was great. Also, because we're getting pretty long now.
Yeah, I think we've covered.
We're creeping up on an hour.
Well, the only thing that we haven't covered, and we can actually cover this in the next episode, are because we've completely neglected Audrey.
Yeah.
That's a huge unforgivable oversight because Audrey is just fantastic. And
she only has a couple scenes in this, but both of them are "don't you want to know more about me" type scenes. I mentioned already her putting the shoes on in the hallway, which I took just to be that she acts one way in front of her family and then acts a different way in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
Then there's a scene where she goes and purposely ruins the sale of something big.
The Ghostwood
resort.
Yeah, the Ghostwood land, the land that is going to be the Ghostwood Estates. She just deliberately screws it up just for
grins. Seems like,
is that?
I'm sure there's a reason there, but from the perspective of someone just watching the first episode, she's just bored and wants to do it, and she wants to screw it up to get the attention of having done it. I would imagine.
Yeah, Audrey and her father become very interesting characters. I mean, I love Audrey and I love Ben. Ben Horn does a great job. He's. I think if I was going to wave a magic wand and be able to play any character in Twin Peaks, it would be Audrey. But if I couldn't get Audrey, it would be
dad.
Yeah, I'd settle for Ben because he just everything he does. It just looks like it would be so fun to act that way.
So I mean, the only thing I've seen is him telling Palmer, what's his face? Like, we can't screw this up. These cheese eaters are doing blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
This is really important. And then trying to chase them as they run away, which I had a note. I wonder because they're supposedly Norwegian, right? Norwegian investors.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're actually saying.
That's a good point.
What the translator is actually saying. I think it would be interesting to find that out.
Yeah, that is a good point.
I hesitate to go onto the Wikia because, again, I don't want to see stuff I shouldn't see yet.
I would avoid that because Twin Peaks has been out there for so long.
Yeah,
that it's probably the easiest show in the world to have spoiled for you.
Right. I mean, it's been a little bit spoiled for me just by virtue of existing in the late 90s, 2000s era. So, a couple quick characters that I like. The secretary for the police,
Lucy.
I love her.
Lucy's fantastic.
She's probably my favorite character so far, aside from
Hawk.
Agent Cooper.
Hawk is great.
Which one's Hawk?
The deputy.
Oh, the one who cries whenever people die?
No. Was Hawk not in the... was he not in the first... I
don't know. I don't remember.
Hawk is the Native American
deputy. He was there, but he didn't really do much.
Okay.
Dr. Jacoby is freaky as hell, and I'm...
Yeah.
Like, he was like, her parents didn't know that she was seeing me, which is like... And then Cooper's like, oh, psychiatrist. And he's like, yeah, but God, the implication... that's pretty scary. What else? Donna's boyfriend, who is literally, I would say that he's a Brock Lesnar clone. If you don't know who Brock Lesnar is, he is a big giant wrestler and an MMA guy.
Wait,
who has a paradoxically tiny voice, but
you're talking about Bobby's friend?
Yeah, Bobby's friend is like a small version of Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, Mike Nelson. Easy to remember. If you're an MST3K fan, that's his character's name. It's Mike Nelson. See, I love Andy.
Which one's Andy?
Andy's the crying detective.
Okay,
Deputy, crying deputy.
Lucy's fiance or boyfriend or whatever.
Lucy's paramour.
Right.
They have a as complex a relationship as two people that stupid can have.
Oh, really? I was hoping that they'd just kind of be sweetly in love with each other. Or is that maybe your point?
No.
Oh, we'll see. Don't say anything. Yeah. But no, I think Lucy is great. Transferring. I'm going to transfer the call to the phone. That's the brown on the lamp. It's the table by the lamp. It's not the blue one, but the brown one. The one that wasn't there 3 weeks ago or whatever.
Well, and that's an example of some of the stuff that makes the show so good. That's such a small detail, the way she does that. But
it's like an Aaron Sorkin script, but amusing.
Yeah, good
instead of tedious.
Yeah.
I didn't want to qualify good or bad.
It's sort of like when they walk into a room and there's a stuffed deer head on the table.
Oh, it fell.
Or the donuts, and people. The donuts drive people insane because people
really?
just start screaming at the TV, "Why all the damn donuts?"
Oh, really? No, I thought it was...
People go insane by that. I've seen people go insane. Why? What is the deal with the donuts?
Well, it's like she sets them up for us like this every night. And I'm like, damn, one, that's probably $50 worth of donuts these days.
Oh.
Two.
That's probably more. I don't know.
No, I mean, donuts
I don't know.
are still relatively
I don't know what the going rate on
inexpensive.
donuts is.
Yeah, I mean, two, if she does that sorry, I'm pounding on the table. I don't want to overload my mic. If she does that every single day or every night, that means she gets there before dawn and leaves well after dark. Because I think it was midnight or later whenever they went in there.
Yeah, they all do seem to live at the police station.
Which, you don't want to see them, using the restroom, and you don't want to see them... at their house doing nothing, but at the same time, you kind of do.
Hey, that gives me an idea. Let's for the next season, let's not do 24.
Okay. Do they? I always wondered because I never watched 24.
That's
do they come out of the bathroom sometimes? Like they
I've
pick
never
up with
seen
the character
it.
who just walked out of the bathroom? Oh, okay.
I've never seen it either, but apparently that's one of the jokes is that it's
if you're listening and
yeah.
then tell us.
And by the way, the show notes, I should have mentioned this earlier.
Show notes is good.
Yeah, the show notes for this episode they're going to be at tvarchaeology.com.
Oh, you got the domain.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we're real.
Are you putting your show notes or the ones that I sent you or what?
I don't know. I just thought we had to have show notes. I thought that was like a thing.
I don't think we have to have. Let's do this. Let's build a. Let's spend 3 or 4 years building a core audience, and then they will do the show notes for us.
All right, that works for me. We could always get an intern. And, there's got to be some high school kid that we can
force. If you're listening and you would like to be an intern and document basically everything we say during the entire conversation, it would be great if you could go and pull references for things that we mention so that if people can look and see what we're talking about if they don't know.
Yeah.
Send your resume and token.
I haven't set up any email accounts yet.
Oh, send them to our Twitter.
We don't.
I don't have Twitter. Do you have Twitter?
No, we don't have those yet.
I think I have one, but I don't use it. But anyway,
go to the website. And probably by the time you go to the website, there will be an email account. See, this is real, folks. This is guerrilla podcasting. Except, not really, but which basically that just explains why there's so much damn air conditioner noise.
I don't know. Mine. We'll see. We'll see. We'll let the audience be the judge of the audio quality of the podcast and how weird we sound when we talk.
All right, folks. Well, this has been fun. We hope that you have enjoyed listening to our discussion of episode 1 of season 1 of the classic television show, soon to be reborn, Twin Peaks. And we hope you join us next week when we take the leap into episode 2 and we further investigate the murder of Laura Palmer. For tvarchaeology.com, this is Jason Mitchell.
This is not Jason Mitchell.
It's so played out.
I know.
I mean, that's so played out. You just lost half
Adam,
our audience. Yeah,
that's fine.
That was Adam Lejeune. This is TV Archaeology. God bless. Have a nice day.
Goodbye.